When an entire market hits the brakes, most companies just slow down with it. It makes sense, right? But every once in a while, a company comes along and decides to play by a totally different set of rules. And that's exactly the story of Asian Paints. Their recent performance is honestly a masterclass in how to win when everyone else is just trying to hang on.
So let's get right into it because this is the real mystery we're unpacking today. The entire paint industry was in a tough spot. We're talking sluggish demand, extended monsoons messing things up, just a really challenging environment. So how on earth does the biggest player in the game not just survive, but actually post incredible growth? And this chart just puts it in stark relief. Look at that. The whole industry grew by maybe 4%. Meanwhile, Asian Paints comes in with a volume growth of 10.9%. That's nearly triple the market average. I mean, that's not just good. That's an absolute outlier. So you have to ask, what did they do differently?
Well, we don't have to guess. The answer comes straight from the top. The CEO, Amit Singhal, basically said, "We decided not to sit around and wait for the market to get better. Instead, they looked inward, they focused on what they could control, and decided to drive their own growth from the inside out."
So what does that internal drive actually look like in practice? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a whole strategy, a powerful 6-point playbook. Think of it as their secret recipe for creating demand and just flat out outmaneuvering the competition no matter what the market was doing.
All right, so let's quickly run through the core pillars of this playbook. First up, they just supercharged their brand with some really aggressive marketing. Second, they doubled down on innovation, pushing out new products. Third, they went big on services to really connect with their customers. We're going to dive into a couple of these more, but the plan also included going local with micro-market strategies, growing their business-to-business side, and this is a big one, taking control of their own supply chain. Okay, let's zoom in on that going local strategy, because it's a perfect example of how smart this playbook really is. Asian Paints gets it. India isn't just one big single market. It's a whole collection of diverse micro markets, and each one has its own vibe, its own culture, its own tastes. Now here's the genius part. They actually created customized paint cans with local art on them. It created this instant connection, a real emotional tug. And you might think, oh, that's just a marketing trick. But no, this was a massive logistical challenge that is incredibly hard for any competitor to copy. And boy, did it pay off. Another huge move was something called backward integration. Now, I know that sounds like a super dry business school term, but all it really means is taking control of your own supply chain. It gives them a massive advantage on cost, quality, and even innovation. And they are all in on this, putting huge money into a white cement plant and a massive new project for next-gen emulsions. Okay, a great strategy is, well, it's only great if it actually works, right? If it shows up in the numbers. So let's take a look at the financial scorecard and see how this 6-point playbook really translated into cold, hard cash. And boom, here's the proof in the pudding. Remember that second point in the playbook, dial up innovation? Well, check this out. Over 15% of the company's revenue now comes from new products. That tells you their focus on creating new, smart, and affordable stuff for customers is having a huge impact on the bottom line. And if you look at the bigger picture, you see success pretty much across the board. The main decorative and industrial paint businesses, strong double-digit growth. The international business, also looking good, with nearly 10% value growth. But you can see there was one piece of the pie that didn't quite grow. Yeah, to get the full story, you have to acknowledge that it wasn't all perfect. The playbook wasn't a magic wand for every single part of the business. Their big push into the home decor space, it definitely hit a bit of a snag. And the contrast is pretty clear. While the core paint businesses were just firing on all cylinders, the home decor part of the company actually saw its kitchen and bath sales decline. The company themselves calls it an area of work, which is just a great reminder that even the best strategies need a little tweaking along the way. So, after a quarter of amazing execution and one clear challenge, what's next for Asian Paints? Well, when they look at the road ahead, they see a mix of some good things and some potential problems. So on the plus side, there are some real opportunities. A strong upcoming marriage season, good signs for rural demand, maybe even a boost from some tax corrections. But it's not all smooth sailing. They're also facing some serious headwinds, like super intense competition and global risks that could mess with raw material prices. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Asian Paint's incredible growth wasn't about luck. It wasn't about catching a rising market wave.
Because frankly, there was no wave. They created their own momentum. They made their own weather, all through a smart, internal strategy and, most importantly, brilliant execution.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question. They proved that a proactive company can absolutely beat a reactive market. But as the market gets even more crowded and the competition gets tougher, it makes you wonder, is having a brilliant playbook, even one you execute perfectly, enough to guarantee you'll keep winning year after year?